really important to turn on the mic before you start talking. Hi, how you doing? So yes, I am here again tonight. My name is Kathleen, for anybody who's new here. Normally you would be seeing Mary Ann's smiling face, but unfortunately she is not able to join us yet. She is going to come back, I promise. Sorry. We're just filling the gap here until she can come back and do the show for you. Murphy is trying to decide where he wants to be while I'm doing the show. Basically, I think he'd like to be someplace in Florida so he can chase birds and fish and all that kind of stuff. For those of you who don't know, Murphy's my dog. And he's very unsettled for some reason tonight. I don't know. Maybe there's another storm coming through. We had a storm go through about 20 minutes ago, and it kind of got him a little unnerved. He's not a fan of the thunder and lightning thing. All right. So what are we talking about tonight? We are talking about how you can take the career you have today and transition into being a BA. It's a question that comes up fairly often, so we thought that tonight would be a good night to do it, since it is something that I have helped a lot of people do. So it's a good topic for me to jump in and cover while Mare is out. So settle in, get comfy, and I will run the show open in a minute, and then we can get started. While I'm waiting, though, I'm going to just verify that we are live everywhere. Sometimes my systems lie to me. So I'd like to double check and make sure. It looks like we're good. It looks like we're live everywhere, which is a good thing. So I'm curious if anybody out there has actually done this or is thinking about it. We would love to hear from you in the chat. Just let us know if you've done it or want to do it or know somebody who has, all that kind of stuff. Because it is, let's face it, nobody has a single career anymore, right? You know, it's not like you get a job, you know, when you're 18 and then, you know, work 50 years, get a gold watch and retire. Those days are gone. But that could be a good thing, right? Because this way we always get to change and grow and evolve. And for some people, the next logical move for them is becoming a business analyst, which is a good thing. All right, it's 8 o'clock. I'm going to run the show open and we will dive in and do this. No, not the show end, the show open. Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen and this is the BA Zone. Tonight we're going to talk about how you can shift from your current career into that of a business analyst. It's a question that we get a lot around here, and it is easier or harder than you might think, depending mainly on where you're coming from. So there are some job titles that lend themselves more easily to this type of transition, but you know, if you have the desire and the skill set, you can do it from any direction. It's just going to take a little bit of extra effort. So we are going to dive in and do that. For those of you who are used to seeing Mare here, unfortunately she can't be with us again this week. Hopefully next week. I know I keep saying that, but it's going to come. One of these times I'm going to be right. She will be back soon, and she will be the one jumping back in front of the camera so I can go back to focusing on running the show. So tonight I'm going to be doing both, so it might be a little bumpy, but you know, it keeps it interesting, right? This way you know it's live, because if it was recorded, I would go in and cut out the stuff I did wrong. All right, so let's get started here. Let me bring up the first slide, or the cover slide. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, how you can take the career you have today and shift into being a business analyst. Is that not going to work? That should work. There we go. Okay, so really? This is what I'm saying. When I get to just produce the show, it's so much easier. So the big question, the first question I always ask anybody who comes up and asks us this question is, why? Why do you think you want to do this? What is it that has put this in your head? What are the draws for you? Because before we tell you how to do it, you need to be sure that you want to do this and that you understand what it is that a business analyst does, because the term, the job title has been frankly beaten beyond recognition. People have started to use it for far too many different things. So a lot of people think they know what it is without actually understanding that. And so that is something that we like to address early on, because if you are going to make a job change, a career change, that's a big deal, right? That's going to impact a big part of your life. We spend a lot of time at work, and you want to make sure that whatever you're going to do is a good fit. So what I always start with is I always suggest that people don't worry so much about the job title and talk about the skills that they have, what they're good at, what they want to get better at, and use those as the core for their possible transition. Sometimes actually just staying in the job you're in and maybe just rejiggering it is the right answer. For other people, it is a job change time. So that's just it's sort of a self-evaluation kind of thing, but it's really important that you be aware of what you're doing, because this is going to take a lot of effort on your time. Changing careers is a full-time job, just like the job you have now. So now you're taking on another one while you're working, hopefully. And so you want to be clear about what it is that you think that you're going to be getting into, what your expectations are, what your goals are, and make sure that that all lines up, right? Kind of important. Just a little bit. So let's talk about some good reasons to become a business analyst, okay? If you're the kind of person who really enjoys complex problems, I'm talking complex, okay? Multi-layered, lots of parallel processing, all that kind of stuff going on. If that kind of stuff makes your brain happy, like it does mine, this might actually be the perfect match for you. If you are able to understand and reconcile business, technical, user needs, a lot of times when I'm doing a job interview myself, when they ask me, why it is I do what I do, or they start to talk about, what unusual skills do you have? We see your basic business analyst stuff. I always tell them that I'm a translator. I'm a universal translator, right? I understand the technical, I understand the business, I understand the users, and I communicate and translate between all of them, because very often in my life, I'll be in a meeting with these 3 different groups, and they'll either be arguing, but actually being in agreement about what they're arguing about, or they'll be nodding their heads and smiling when I know that they're all interpreting it the wrong way and I have to step in and clarify it for each individual group. So if that's something that you find yourself able to do, if you're able to move smoothly between these worlds and yet communicate to each audience in their own voice, this again could be a very good fit for you. If you have a really good understanding of how positive, parallel, and negative flows work and interact, and the importance of understanding and documenting all of those, right? A lot of times when you're working on a project, it's rush, 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 we got to get this out, we promise it to the client, and they just want to look at the simple, straightforward patterns, right? Which if life were that easy, all of our jobs would be easier. But the reality is, yes, okay, that needs to be documented, and sometimes that's a challenge. But the real challenge is dealing with all of the other stuff, the stuff that goes on in parallel, the stuff that is negative path stuff, what happens when something fails, what happens when the data doesn't deliver on time, all those kinds of things. If those kinds of problem solving situations are the kind of thing that you feel you do well in, that you've got a lot of experience in, if you understand and can think ahead when somebody says, oh, well, we'll just do this thing here, right? And if you're able to go, okay, that's going to impact these things and these things and these things and these things. If your brain automatically goes there to all the different combinations and you can visualize them, communicate them, again, this could be a very good fit for you. Now, let's talk about the reasons that maybe this wouldn't be a good move for you. If you are going into this because you think that it's going to be easier than your current job, this is probably not a good move for you. Many people who start this career think that it is easy, that it is cookie cutter, that it is simple recipes that you follow. That is not the case. And so if that is your expectation, that's not going to work out well for you or for the people that you're going to be working with. If your goal is to get a job with lots of predictability, consistent day, if you want to do the same thing in and day out, if you like to know, what tomorrow is going to be and next week is going to be and next month is going to be, you're not going to be happy being a BA, because our lives are really, we live at the center of chaos, okay? And it's our job to deal with the chaos, okay? Organize it, solidify it, and then give it back to people in a much better state than it was in. Which means that you are constantly dealing in a state of chaos and panic and confusion, missing data, incomplete requirements from the business, from the text, from whoever, that you then have to take all these pieces, stitch them together, identify the new issues, okay, that come out of trying to stitch those together, dealing with that every single day, every single hour sometimes is a completely different ballgame. So if you are looking for something that is calm and predictable and relaxed, this is not for you. If you are bored where you are now and you're just looking to make a change for the sake of making a change, again, probably not a good match, because if you don't understand what you're getting into here, you're going to go from boredom into panic, and that is not, again, going to help you or anybody. It's certainly not a great career choice, right? Nobody wants to sign up for the bad career choice, so don't try to maybe step back and think about this. If you've gotten into this because somebody else has told you that it's what you should do, or you just don't know what else to do, and you figure that this is a safe haven, again, this is a highly specialized field, despite the fact that many people don't respect that or understand it. So if these are the reasons that you're thinking about getting into it, you probably want to rethink it. Or at least reach out. You could reach out to Marianne and I. We'll be happy to walk you through it, kind of step you through everything. Because these are all the bad reasons we've seen anybody join up for. We've had way too many people join, with very little experience, and that's fine. That's not a problem. Okay, you can always pick that up. But if you have very little experience and your expectations are completely wrong and you don't have the skill set or the interest in building the skill set, then all you're doing is making everybody's life harder, especially your own. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Let me just do a quick check-in because it looks like my tool is not bringing up my comments again. Let me just try that again. Hang on one sec. Whoops. No, see, that's not good, because that's exactly what I was afraid was happening. So yes, see, this is live. This is what happens. So I have a tool that brings in the comments from 2 of the 3 platforms that we go to. Last week it didn't behave right, and it looks like there's a problem again. This is not the tool's fault. This is because Facebook and YouTube are both rearranging their worlds at the moment, and I think that this is just an unfortunate side effect, because some BA was not involved in the process and did not get involved in making sure that it wasn't going to break anything throughout the process, which is okay, that's all right. We understand these things, we can work around these things, so we're not going to worry about it. But let me just jump over and check and see if anybody has any comments or questions. John was trying to let me know to turn on the microphone, but I beat him to it, so that's good. I'm getting better at that. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I've got it set up so that Mayor's mic automatically turns on, but not my own, because I don't usually talk on the show anymore. So that would be the case there. All right, and let me check on Periscope. Are you folks doing okay? As always, Periscope folks, you know that if you're commenting and I don't respond to it in a few minutes, you might want to put it in again, because that is the one tool that does not persist the comments. Because heaven forbid we make it easy for us to work with the people who have questions. So anyway, feel free to go ahead and put the comments in again, or questions or whatever, in Periscope if you would like. The rest of them we seem to be okay, and that is all good. Okay, excellent. Actually, since I'm already on a break here, let me just remind you that we are in all of the usual places. So if you have a question, if you have comments, if you would like to share your own experience, or if you just have a show topic you'd like us to cover, you can go and visit us on the website, which is thebazone.com. There's a contact form there. We're also on Twitter and Instagram and Periscope and Facebook and YouTube. So whatever platform you're comfortable in, whatever world you like to be in, we are there too, and you are more than welcome to come and let us know, share your questions, or if you'd like to talk about maybe making this kind of transition but you're not sure about it, you can go to any of those places and let us know, and we'll be very happy to help you with that. Alrighty, let's switch back. That one. There we go. Okay, so we've covered the good reasons, we've covered the bad reasons, and I think I lost my controller too. Alright, let's try one more here. This is an easier one to get back. I don't know why it feels the need to go away when something else opens, but it does. That's just okay. And that needs to go like that. There we go. See? We're good. We're all back together now. This is why Mayor does the camera work and I produce the show, because producing is hard, and producing while you're on the show is really hard. Okay. Yes, we got it all back. We are back to where we started. So we've covered the fact that you need to think about why you are getting into this. Make sure that you understand what a business analyst is. We've talked about the good reasons to do it and the bad reasons to do it. So now let's keep going. Okay, so we're going to talk about what won't work first if you're looking to make this transition. Why do we do this? Because again, just like people start to go down this path for the wrong reason, very often the the most common bad reason that we hear is, well, somebody told me that this would be good for me. So along that lines is here are things that won't work if you are trying to make the transition. Don't worry, we're going to get into the things that do work. We're just going to start off with avoid these first. Okay? So, I know there's a lot of certification programs out there. There's a lot of certification programs out there that are promising you the sun, the moon, and the stars if you just pay them lots of money and take their course. Now, understand, we're not dissing certification. Certification is fine once you're working as a BA and you have some experience. If you want to then get certified to prove what you know and all your experience, that's fine. What you don't want to do is spend time and money in a certification course because without the experience, it doesn't mean anything. Just because you walk out of a class, however long it is, a week, 6 months, a year, whatever, and you're waving your certification around, does not mean that people are going to come storming up to you and hire you, because they've been burned too many times. They know that just because you took that course doesn't mean that you understand what it's like to do the job day in and day out, that you have the ability to problem solve. They know that all this means is they're going to have to handhold you and train you, and they're maybe not looking for that. So don't waste your time. Get the job. Look at the experience that you've got. Make that all work. We'll talk about that in a minute. But don't just jump into a certification program because it seems like the easy way to go about getting a job, because it's actually the opposite. And we just don't like to see anybody wasting time and money. Nobody can really afford to lose either of those. So this way, you're going to avoid that. Another piece of bad advice that people get is to take your current resume and just go in and change all the job titles to business analyst. And then that is going to help you get a job. It's not. First of all, you're lying, okay? And that's never a good way to start this process or this relationship, so you don't want to go there. Second of all, anybody that has been around for longer than 20 minutes can smell the lie, see it in your resume. So don't do that. We can talk a little bit in a minute about what you can do with your resume, but just changing your job title to make it look like a match, yeah, that's going to get you past the OCR, robot screener, but it's not going to pass the sniff test with the humans. And you don't want to end up with a bad reputation out there on the market, right? And don't assume, you know what they say, right? Don't assume that they will anybody who look at your resume or your cover letter is going to understand why it is that you're making a change from whatever your job is today into becoming a business analyst. You can't expect them to make that leap. You've got to put those pieces together. You've got to, make sure that all those connection points are communicated as you go through the process. Make sense? Easy enough? Yes? Okay, good. Let's go. Okay, here we go. This is what you came here for. How do you make the change? What can you do about it, right? We got you covered. All right, so why did that go backwards? Hang on. Let's go forwards. There we go. That's better. Okay, so first, make sure that you've done your research, okay? Make sure you understand what it is being a business analyst is about. Make sure you're doing your research on the companies that you're thinking about going to work for. Even if you're not ready to put your resume in yet, even if maybe they don't have a job posting for you yet, still do your research. Understand what their pain points are, what the business analyst does in that company, because again, as I mentioned earlier, lots of people are using that title to mean lots of different things. So you need to narrow down what type of business analyst you're going to be. Now, some of them actually are, I've seen people using this job title for what is really quality assurance, which is great. Quality assurance is key, but it's not necessarily business analyst work from the traditional standpoint. So you need to figure out, is that the part of this that seems interesting to you, or is it the requirements gathering, problem solving side of it? None of it's wrong. You just want to make sure you're going to be applying for the right kinds of jobs. You also want to make sure that you're doing enough research to understand how whatever experience you have might carry across. Because there are other jobs where you have to do technical things. There are other jobs where you have to communicate complex topics to people who are not necessarily, speaking the acronym gibberish of that particular domain. Technology is known for their special language. So if you've worked in a different area, maybe you haven't worked in technology, maybe you've worked in healthcare, so you're used to explaining complex topics to people who maybe are in a panicked mind state, right? Because of healthcare, maybe something wrong with them or a loved one, and you've got an ability to explain to them, to calm them down, to get them focused, to understand what their options are and what's happening. So that could be a nice transition point. But that's the whole point here. You really need to put the time in and do the research and understand what it is that you are looking to do. Do you want to do just business process rebuilding, or do you want to do software building, software design, software creation, software updates? There's a lot of different nuances inside of this job title, so you got to dig in and figure out which one is yours. Now, please, as we're talking about the don'ts, don't just scattershot and say, I can do all of it, because maybe you can, but it's not effective for you or the people who you're going to be hiring if you're all over the place. You need to narrow it down. It doesn't have to be, pinpoint. You need to go from here to here, okay? It doesn't have to be this. You get my point? So it doesn't have to be completely a wide shot. It doesn't have to be a laser point. You want to be someplace in between those, right? So just enough so that people feel like you have a focus, that you know what it is that you're going to be bringing, what kind of problems you're going to be able to solve, and that way they're going to be able to figure out whether or not it's a good match for what their needs are. Because that's really what job hunting is all about. Well, that and getting a new job and getting paid. Okay, then once you've got a big picture view of that, you need to step back and do a harsh external type of view of your skills and your work history. How do they appear to somebody else through the lens of I'm looking for a business analyst? Because whatever you may be doing, that's one way to look at your job history, but now you're asking somebody to come in from another angle and look at it. So you need to see which are the ones that map very cleanly, which are the ones that require a little explanation, but then it becomes clear how they map across, and which are the ones that maybe don't really apply, but it just proves that you have a certain level of ability, the ability to learn things, different skills, that type of thing. And you need to make sure that you lay all those out, bucket them appropriately so that you know what you're working with as you try to go forward. You need to make sure, even if you haven't done it yet, that you become familiar with the basic pieces of the business analyst process. So that's things like, and we have other videos on that, believe me, there's hours of material if you want to learn all this stuff. But it comes down to all the different things involved in requirements gathering. And then processing that information, looking for duplications, for gaps, for inconsistencies, being able to document that stuff in the appropriate way. Some things need a chart, some things need a flow, some things need a document. Making sure that all that's there. Maybe, if you're building software, maybe you're going to have to do some like basic wireframes or whatever. You don't have to be an expert at all these things. You need to understand what the pieces are, how they fit together, and how you identify which one you need to continue to go through the requirements gathering process of that piece. And because that is key. And then, you can always on the job, learn and dig in deeper. But if you understand what all the pieces are, how they fit, how to decide which piece to use when, you're going to be in a much better position. Somebody just comes in and goes, yeah, last week I was grooming dogs. This week I'm a business analyst. Not that you can't do that. Let me be clear. You can if you have other experience that you're bringing to it, right? Make sure that when you do get to the point where you are going to be working on your resume, make sure that you, again, don't go in and just change your existing job titles. Basically, most people, when they do a resume, they tend to do it from I worked at this company, I did this was my job title, and these were the things I did, right? And they go through and they repeat that all the way throughout. And most of the time that's fine, right? If you're staying inside the same sort of area that you've been in all along, that works out okay. When you're looking to make a career change like this, you need to shake it up. You need to change your resume approach a little bit, and instead focus on your skills. Your skills, how you applied them, and how that benefited the company, and go through it that way. You're not going to hide anything. You're not going to lie. You're still going to mention in a different sections the companies you worked for, the dates, all that kind of stuff, and the job titles. But you want to start with the skills, especially focusing on the ones that tie most closely to the type of business analyst you're looking to fill the position for, and then speak very specifically about how you use this skill to achieve this goal and solve this problem and what the outcome was. It's a slightly different version of resume. If you search, you can find all kinds of examples of the different formats for resumes, the different approaches. This is a good time for a different one. Some people are going to be, oh, no, you can't. Always the resumes have to be this way. No, as long as you are clear, not hiding anything, and your resume is cleanly laid out and easy to scan and understand, it's okay to use different formats. The people who are doing the hiring are used to seeing different formats. And yes, they understand why the different formats are being used. None of those are going to be a penalty against you. They're going to appreciate the fact that you took the time to think about how to best present yourself and your skills for this job. This is also a good time too to work on your cover letters. And your cover letter is a really good chance to explain that, yes, I've been doing, QA work. And in doing that, I've also been a team member on the requirements gathering process, and I find myself drawn to that kind of work, and I have contributed to it this way. And you see how that goes? Like, yes, I was over here, but I've been doing this work, and I'd like to get deeper into it because of the exposure I've had to it. Now, that's the ideal situation, is that you've already worked on a team with business analysts. That may not always be the case, but there's still going to be chances for you to say, okay, well, business analysts need to, be able to access that information, from a database and do comparisons. I did that kind of thing here. Or, business analysts need to map out process flows and workflows and task flows. I did that kind of thing over here. Again, it doesn't have to be apples to apples. It could be apples to applesauce, apples to oranges, if you could really explain the combination of them all being fruit. I'm being a little extreme here to make the point. Don't not do it if you have the skills, because frankly, we need more good business analysts out there. There are not enough of us out there. So I am in no way trying to talk anybody out of this. Matter of fact, I want you to come and join. Come under the tent. Come help us out. We need you. But you need to be... This is a good chance, actually, to show how you can process information, make the connections, and explain it, because that's what we do. So this is a perfect example of a time to do that. Now, don't turn your cover letter into a 50-page requirements document. That's not the right answer. Concise, clear letter. That's why it's a letter and not a whole document. But that combination of that with the resume that is coming from the skills point of view is going to be a huge help for you. All right, let's keep going. As I'm losing my voice here too. Mayor's going to come back and I'm going to lose my voice. That's how life works, right? All right, so here are some job titles that tend to make it easier. So if any of these are you now, you're already in a good position because you've worked with the teams that do the requirements gathering, whatever titles they are using. These skills are also very much the same. So if you've been doing any kind of testing, quality assurance kind of work, it's a pretty smooth transition from one to the other. Technical writing, clearly, right? You've had to explain things to people you're never going to meet on fairly technical topics usually. So that's a great example. Plus, one of the benefits for these two in particular, maybe the next one too, is you will have examples of your previous work that you can bring as examples of the way that you present this kind of information, whether it's test plans and the results and, retest and regression testing plans, or technical writing, different types of documents you've written. Those are gold as you're trying to make this kind of transition, because it, again, reinforces the fact that you do have the skills, you just haven't had the job title yet. So those are really handy things. Now, if you don't have any of these, okay, if you're not on this, I keep doing this the wrong way, this list. If you're not on this list, or in some way, shape, or form, now that does not have to stop you. You just have to put a little bit more work into making those connections for people, because again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to make people assume, or you don't want to assume that people are going to make those connections, right? You want to do that for them. That's what you're bringing to the table, is your ability to connect things in a way that makes it clear how they fit together. Reporting analyst, again, you might have some documentation or some examples of stuff. That would be very good. Client services people are usually pretty good about making this kind of a transition because they have spent so much time dealing with customers, clients, users, that they really generally have a really good understanding of the pain points for those people, how they view the problems they run into, the difference between how a user might explain the issue, the way they see it, and the gap between that and what the real issue is. So that's why client services people tend to be very good at this. Because that's a lot of what we do is we're just doing it for a bigger audience, because we're doing it for the business and for the tech and for the user community. So those folks usually do very well. Project managers, of course, have been doing this kind of work, maybe officially or unofficially, or have been working very closely with those of us who do it. So they generally have a pretty good view of how it works and how their skills are going to translate over. System analysts too, they're going to be stronger, of course, probably from the technical side of it. But if you are a systems analyst and you're really good at like doing, all the maps and the flows that need to be done there, maybe you've done some database design, that kind of thing too, security, upstream, downstream kind of stuff. All that is totally a part of what we do, which you probably already know. So you're going to just need to fill in the gaps on maybe you haven't had a lot of experience dealing with customers, but maybe you can, work that somehow with maybe internal customers and how you've worked with them. And you may need to get a little bit, unless you already have the translation skills between the business and the technical and the customers. Otherwise, you might, just need to kind of look for some examples in your own work of where that carries across. So that is basically the bones of it. The whole trick to this here, sorry Murphy, is to make sure that you are making all the connection points, that you are taking your experiences that you have now, the work that you've done to date, any examples that you have, and kind of wrapping them all up and presenting them in the light of a business analyst from the point of skills, problem solving, and documentation. If you are able to do that, this will be a much easier transition for you because you've got those pieces. If you're missing any of those, you might have to work a little harder. You may even need to create. So one of the things I've done with a couple of people who wanted to get into this but didn't have a ton of examples or experience was I had them just look around and see something that was going on in the news. Right? So there's always some system failing someplace that's causing all kinds of problems. So I said to them, well, think about it this way. Think if you were assigned to the company, where that problem is happening, how would you go about troubleshooting that issue? Now, granted, you don't have any insider information and all that, but sometimes that's exactly the situation we get thrown into. So you need to bring your own problem-solving tools to this and say, okay, well, how would you start the process of going through and trying to figure out what went wonky and what possible fixes could be, who you would need to talk to, and just kind of write all that up and wrap it up as a document example. Again, just because it's not real, just because it wasn't part of your job, doesn't mean that you can't create those kinds of examples to show people that, okay, maybe I haven't done this with this job title before, but I understand the pieces, and here's an example of just a theoretical situation where I would have gone through and done things this way. That sometimes is exactly what you need to move from the, maybe right to the, okay, we're going to bring you in and have you talk to the rest of the team. So don't let the fact that you don't have something hold you back if it's something that maybe you can put together for yourself. Now, I'm not talking about, having to actually build a system or code a system or, it's just enough to communicate that you have the abilities and you have the thought processes and the skills to do the job. And we need you. We need you. We need you. We need you. And if you would like to hear more, learn more, stay in the know on the stuff we're doing, you can join our mailing list, which is the bazone.com/mailing list. Don't worry, we're asking very minimal information just so we can send emails to you. And we're not sharing this information with anybody, but this is how you can stay up to date on the shows that we're doing, the classes that we've got, all that kind of good stuff. So I hope that you will go over and join that. And speaking of the courses, along this line here, we do have some job search classes. So there's two sections to the classes. One is about how to get experience before you have the experience, which is kind of what we're talking about here. And the other is just about going through the job search process. It's a little bit different than it used to be. You don't just go and get the newspaper and circle things and mail your resume in. There's more to it these days. Most of it is online. So we kind of walk you through some different things in that. So if you are in the situation now, you can feel free to go and check that out. Alrighty, I'm going to do one more check here. I think we're good. Okay, what's John got? Come behind the curtain. It's okay. We only do a little. Yes, we need more BAs out there. We need more really good BAs out there. There's not enough of us to go around. So we're not kidding when we say we're doing this because we want you to come and join us. We want you to come and help us do this kind of work because it does need to happen. Look, clearly, I'm just not getting the comments again. I think it's Facebook. Plus, if you do get through to human and possibly get the job, then you will realize how bad it was. Okay, I'm sorry, John. I that was an earlier comment, so I'm not sure what that had to do with anything. I'm sorry. But I appreciate your commenting. I do. I always do. Okay, so like I said, if you have any questions, if you have, if you want more information on anything, if you have an idea for the show, feel free to reach out to us. We are all kinds of open to this. That's what we're here for. This is about information sharing between all the BAs, because I know there's a lot of you BAs out there who are working alone. That's a very common thing too, right? You get brought on and you are it. You are the business analyst department, and we don't want you to feel alone. So, feel free to reach out if you have questions, comments, you just want to commiserate. We're good with that too. TheBAZone.com, or if you prefer Twitter, we're the BA Zone on Twitter also. Okay? Thank you all so much. Hopefully Mare will come back next week. Fingers crossed. She's working at it. She's trying to get everything all figured out so that she can come back and be here on Tuesdays with us. It's the one challenge of doing a live show is that it does not reschedule easily. So that's why I've been jumping in for her. All right. Go, become a BA, help us out. We really, really need you. Seriously. All right, everybody. Oh, hi, Previn on YouTube. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Unfortunately, I'm wrapping up, but you'll be able to catch the replay. And if you have any questions, you can always go and hit us up on the website or on Twitter. We're happy to help you out there. I hope you're all having a great day and the rest of the week goes well. And we will see you next week. And hopefully, Mira will be back. Have a good one. Bye. Oops. Yeah, we'll put that up there too again. Why not, right? All right. Have a good one, folks. Bye.